Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. Today, we're being joined by Sandy Joy Weston, author of Train Your Head and Your Mind Will Follow. Sandy, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm so excited, Paul. I mean, after chatting with you a little bit, this is going to be freaking awesome.
We are going to have a lot of fun. Are you ready to get started?
I'm ready to get started.
Excellent. Question number one. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
Well, you know, it might sound really cliche, but the most important thing to me was to write it for myself. I had to be beyond passionate about what I wanted to get out there and my message I wanted to spread. So it didn't matter who published me, how I published. I enjoyed every minute of writing. I couldn't wait to get down and write more words. It was just too exciting to me. So that way, I knew that it wouldn't be frustrating. If people didn't accept it, I didn't care. If people didn't get me, Paul, I didn't care, because every day I knew I had to get my word out there.
I have that same philosophy. I always refer to it as the power of one. I'm going to keep it real. I'm going to be very blunt, very open, very vulnerable in my style of writing. And the main thing is I want to be able to help one person. And if I have the opportunity to help one person with this book, then I've done my job.
Ooh, I like that. Yeah, that's a great way of looking at it, you know. But I do believe whenever you know this, whenever you help yourself, you know, you end up helping others.
Yep.
So for me, I don't know about you with writing, but for me, when I was writing, it made me feel good inside. Like I felt like I was healing myself throughout the process of telling my story and expressing myself. So when I do that, I knew there must be other people I'm going to help too.
Yeah, and that's always the way I felt about it. It's always what I tell my clients. And the great thing is it works. You're not only going to help one person. You're going to have the opportunity to help many people. And I think it's just such a great thing when you get to share that journey with the world. I
absolutely agree.
Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
Getting someone to freaking read it. I mean, for me personally, it was asking for help. So I wanted to get an agent, and I really wanted to get a big publisher. I mean, I knew that, but I also, like I said, I was okay, you know, I'll publish it myself. I didn't care, you know, it was going to get out there. But I have a tough time asking for help, meaning I have all these great mentors and all these great people in my life. But to me to call them up and say, hey, do you have an agent I could use? That's hard for me. So I went the standard way of trying to find an agent, and I couldn't. And then a very good friend of mine and mentor, his name is Croce, and he's really big in the Philadelphia area. He started out in physical therapy and sports medicine. He was like one of the first people, and he was motivational speaker, and then he went on to be an owner of the Sixers. So everyone really knew him, and he is really successful. And he helped me a lot along the way, and I finally got the courage to pick up the phone and say, hey, do you have an agent that you could refer me to? And just that one person opening the door, he gave me 2 agents, and right away the Renee Fountain in New York City read it and loved it immediately. So how stubborn am I that it took me like almost a year to ask for help? Think about that.
Oh, I get it. It took me 4 years to get that first book done. So the main thing is you went out there, you asked, and I remember Pat Croce as well, and I know the big process with the 76ers has always been trust the process with all those draft picks they stockpiled, and they trusted it, and now they got a pretty competitive team.
Yes, they do. I love sports, and I love going. And when Croce was involved, it was like, we were talking about marketing early. It's like a whole experience. Like whether they won, it's just the only place you could go when he was there. Whether they won or lost, you had a great time. It was crazy. That's fun. So it was good. But that's like for me, not, and by the way, it did take me, it was like a 4-year process also for me to write the book, then another like year and a half to get an agent, and then another year and a half to get a publisher. Long time. A lot of rejection going on there, but I was cool with it.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Okay, so Skyhorse did help with marketing. They did, get me some meetings and interviews, and actually it's called Train Your Head and Your Body Will Follow. It really, is about the mindset and staying in that positive mindset. How do you get there, and how to, use fitness as your vehicle? And there was journals attached. It was a little out there, even though it was only back in, January 2018, no one was really picking it up here right in Philly. So believe it or not, the first marketing things they got me was to be out in LA. LA got me. Then they got me some great interviews on the news, which was great for me. And then I went from there and I spent my time. I went to Portland, which is really great for books. And then I went up to Seattle. But besides what they booked me for, I booked, with the help of my operations person, Megan. We constantly were calling bookstores for me to go and present at different bookstores and to do speaking engagements anywhere. I mean, from yoga studios, to women's club. So I just constantly hit the pavement and put myself out there.
Well,
on my own. I didn't wait for other, just the publisher, because they have so many books. You know that. I mean, they give you like maybe the first month or two, they're hitting it hard, but then after that, you're kind of on your own.
Yeah, and one thing I've always looked at with marketing is it's a 3-tiered approach. One is doing the book launch, working with book promo companies and having that sequence set up. Then the second part of that is doing the book signings. And then the third part of that is doing the speaking opportunities, whether that's read-ins, whether it's going out to different clubs. You mentioned yoga, different yoga studios, or the women's clubs, or Rotary clubs, or the chamber. All those different opportunities where you just get to go out there and to utilize it, because it really, you have to have all those different things. One thing's going to help, with the launch, with the book promos, that's going to get you the credibility, but what's going to get you the sustained success? And the answer to that is get out there and speak and get it on podcasts, kind of like this, where you keep the momentum going for months, if not years down the line.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, though, that could be hard for people, because I can tell, Paul, you're a great speaker. And you love speaking. So you probably get a lot of energy and motivated more when you are surrounded by people. And I do too. I feed off others' energy. But what about, I think about the marketing end of it. What about authors who are shy, but they have a great book? I mean, what do they do? Because that's a difficult thing, I would think.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest thing that people have to realize. You do have to sell your book. This is a product. This is a product launch. It's not just a book launch. It is your company. It is your brand. It is your personal message. And you do have to get out that comfort zone, even if that means you have someone that does calls on your behalf, that you're reaching out to people, because it's not that difficult. You make a few calls, you call a few bookstores, go, hey, I've got this book coming out. I'm a local author. I'd love to do a sign-in. Would there be an opportunity available? You're pretty much always going to hear a yes, because you're a local author. You're offering value. You're offering an opportunity to bring traffic in. So they're going to say okay to that. But the thing is, not everyone's going to be comfortable picking up that phone and making that phone call.
Yeah, it's scary.
Yeah. And the thing is, more than anything now, I mean, with you going through Skyhorse and a lot of these other publishers, these publishers still expect you to do the lion's share of the marketing. So you do have to get out of that comfort zone and get on with it.
That's exactly right. You're right. But I like what you said, that you have to know yourself. And if you know it's really difficult for you to make those calls, and you have to have somebody help you with it. Because even if you're a little bit on the shy side or introvert, you'll be okay once you get to the bookstore, because you'll be able to just sit there, talk to people one-on-one, and sign your book, which is a lot different, than doing a big speaking engagement. So there are ways, but you might need to get some help, with the initial.
So with your strategy with the bookstores, so were you calling like the Barnes and Nobles of the world? What type of bookstores were you calling to get in there? Every
bookstore you can imagine. So it wasn't just the Barnes and Nobles. we called all the different local bookstores, which, it's hard to find them, but we did. And just so you know, even though you're right, Paul, it was easier for a local person, so most of the local small bookstores, as well as Barnes & Noble, because they were carrying the books, so I was fortunate enough to go to the bigger ones. But when I would travel, it was hard to get in the big store, but we would call and we'd get in more of the local store. Do you know what I mean? Bookstore. So we would get in the smaller bookstore, even though, like, when I was out in Seattle and I already had something set up, I wanted to make, I'm out there. I want to get in as many as possible. Some of the local bookstores took me. So that was great. Not the bigger ones, like a Barnes & Noble there didn't take me, but the local people did. And I had a lot of success with them.
Yeah, and exposure is exposure. That's the main thing. Doesn't matter which store you're in. The fact is you're in a bookstore. You're having the opportunity to promote it. What are some of the things that you did to promote your book signings? What are some of your strategies with that?
Well, we did a lot on my website and the social media page. And since my book was called Train Your Head and Body Will Follow, we'd have fun little slogans and little posters that we would put up, because my slogan is, all it takes is 1 to 3 minutes a day to change your body, ... your life in a positive way. So I would put up little signs, and Megan would help me make it, that would say, do you have 1 to 3 minutes? Do you have 1 to 3 minutes, to live a positive life? Like little fun little things that would get people to be interested versus just, hey, come see Sandy Joy Weston. And they're like, who the freak's her? They don't know me. But I feel like the topic would interest them. Also, depending on the area, we would go after different demographics. So at one bookstore, we went after more of the teenagers. And so, we got a lot of high school students. So we angled that way, because I would call, or Megan would call the bookstore and find out who their, biggest people were that came there. Like, what's your market? Is it male, female? What's the age group? Is it baby boomers? I mean, I thought that was one of the biggest things. Unless it was all general and all over the place, but this one said, well, we get a lot of teenagers, so we marketed to that. We get a lot of baby boomers, so we marketed more to that. So we changed the angle that we were promoting the workshop and the book signing.
And how many of these book signings do you end up doing, just off the top of your head?
Well, in the first year, I was like, it came out January 2018, I was doing at least 1 to 2 a week.
Wow.
And yeah, I was doing a lot. And then it slowed down. Now, I do speaking engagements at workshops, so it's a little different now. So instead of going to bookstores, I'll more do speaking engagements, and it'll be about the book. It'll be, I went to a school just recently, and, I was talking to the teachers about mindfulness and mindset. So, I talk about the book in there, even though it's not directly about selling the book. Or I spoke to a women's club in Philadelphia, and the same thing. They might have like, hey, this wants to be on mental health, but you're still getting in there at the end about your book. So that's what I'm doing more now. And I'm moving into my book. It has a philosophy of how, it's like a 4-phase thing of how to get in that mindset using fitness as a vehicle. So I go and I'll teach workshops. My goal is to go into workshops into corporations and into schools. So that promotes the book too. Do you know what I mean? It's not just, so mine's kind of a different book, because I would think it'd be more in the health and fitness or self-help type of book.
Now, you mentioned moving on into corporate business. So how did that end up happening with that?
So which has been really tough for me, but I'm getting there. It was the right decision. I've owned health clubs my whole life. Mm-hmm. And Weston Fitness, my last name is Weston, was at 19th and Market, which is right in the core of the corporate setting in Philadelphia. So our market was a 3 to 6 block radius, and I would say 80% was corporates. So, and most of the people would come in and work out at their lunchtime. And I was there for 17 years. So I got to know a lot of people and a lot of people in corporations. So I made a lot of connections through that. I always tell people, if you know anything about fitness, my biggest connections I first started out years and years ago in the private training business. And when people connect with you on that one-to-one level, I met so many amazing people and mentors and businessmen. Matter of fact, Ed Snyder, who owned the Flyers and the Sixers and Prism, who passed away recently, he was my biggest mentor, and he invested in one of my first clubs. So I got to know people at that one-to-one special level. And then not the same, close relationship, but I got to know like thousands of people from owning a health club in a corporate setting.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot easier when people kind of know you from them taking your classes or using your gym when you make that call.
Mm-hmm.
You already kind of have an established relationship of some sort.
Excellent. Well, speaking of books, I'd like to ask you, what is your favorite book, and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
Ooh. So, I'm a book junkie. I read books constantly, and I actually go to the store or buy them on Amazon, but I like to go to the store mostly. So I have a million books. So when I was thinking about that, but I think the book that really impacted me the most would probably be, I don't know if you ever heard of Hay House Publishing, but Louise Hay, and her book was called You Can Heal Your Life. And it really changed my way of thinking about how powerful our health is affected by the thoughts that we have that we're not even aware of. Now, she went on to write, a million books. And I think she started Hay House Publishing when she was 60. I mean, crazy. The woman did like all these great things when she was 60. I don't know if you ever heard of Wayne Dyer or those people, but it's more of a self-help. Yeah. And so those books really changed my life around.
And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
And same thing. I'm a junkie for quotes. I write one every day. I look one up every day. But the one that's in the front cover of my book says, "My religion is very simple. My religion is kindness." That's my quote by Dalai Lama.
Excellent. And I would say why, but I think we know the answer on that one.
Yeah. Yep. I like to embrace, I love people. I love listening to their stories. And I like being open to, whatever path they're on, as long as it's coming from love. So for me, that was perfect.
That's always been my philosophy too. And we were talking before the show. I was a teacher for 9 years before I went full on with publishing. And one of my big philosophies is, you do good, you help other people, everything else comes back in a beautiful way. And when you don't take care of people right, it's going to come back in a whole different direction.
That's exactly right.
Well, Sandy,
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, I just believe if you look for kindness in people, you're going to find it. So you get what you look for, and it comes back tenfold to you.
Absolutely. Well, Sandy, I want to thank you for being a guest on the show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
It's really easy. Just sandyjoyweston.com. That's easy.
Well, Sandy, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
All right, Paul, thank you so much, and I hope we connect soon.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how you can be featured in our brand new Get Published business book, go to getpublishedpodcast.com.